My dear students, I welcome you once again to the session, and today we are going to study about the Mendelian genetics. Basically, when we talk about genetics, genetics is divided into two categories. Number one is called the Mendelian genetics, and the other one is called the modern genetics. The modern genetics is also referred to as post-Mendelian genetics. When we deal with Mendelian genetics, we deal with the basic principles of genetics. Generally, under Mendelian genetics, we study about the monohybrid cross, and the other one as dihybrid cross. So Mendel concluded the basic principles of genetics by studying these two crosses, which he conducted in his experiments using the pea plant, the scientific name of which is Pisum sativum. So Mendel conducted experiments of hybridization, taking the pea plant, and these pea plant which were taken in his hybridization experiment led him finally to the conclusion of the three principles of genetics, which are: number one, the law of dominance; number two, the law of segregation; and the last one is the law of independent assortment. However, my dear students, before we get into the Mendelian genetics, there are certain things that we need to understand, and these are: number one, frequently now we will be using some terms which we have not heard before. One of the main terms that will be used is factor or factors. Now, this factor or factors was the term used by Mendel. The word factor or factors simply refers to nothing but genes. But during Mendel's time, the term gene was not yet coined, as this term was coined by Johnson in the year 1909. Therefore, whatever we are going to deal with as far as Mendelian genetics is concerned, the main theme circles around the factor. And this factor that we are going to use as a word here in Mendelian genetics is nothing but the genes. The next term that will come across very frequently is cross. This cross here refers to mating between two individuals. To produce a progeny. Next, we come to the term that we will hear very frequently, hybridization. Hybridization is a technique of breeding to produce a hybrid. The next term that we'll come across is the hybrid. It is simply the product of breeding technique called hybridization. So here we see, when we are dealing with Mendelian genetics, there are some more terminologies that we'll have to understand, and these terminologies are factors, which means genes, cross, meaning mating between, that is breeding of parent individuals to produce a progeny. That is simply referred to as a cross. The next term is hybridization. Hybridization is a breeding technique to produce a progeny which is referred to as a hybrid. And hybrid is nothing but the product of the breeding technique called hybridization. This hybrid will possess the genes that are there in the parents, which this hybrid will express. This hybrid, therefore, simply is a mixture of the two parents that are taken to produce this product called hybrid. My dear students, before we lead ourselves into the Mendelian genetics, it's important that we should know a little bit about the father of genetics, that is John Gregor Mendel. So John Gregor Mendel was born in the year 1822. He comes from a peasant family, but at the age of 21, he became a monk. And after that, he involved himself in the hybridization experiment. With the pea plants. In the year 1865, he finally came to a conclusion for the study that he did under hybridization and presented his paper to the Braun Science Society in Austria. However, he was provided no credit for the work that he conducted and in which he explained the mechanism of inheritance. John Gregor Mendel died in the year 1884. His documents did not get any credit, but finally in the year 1901, Karl Corrins, Schmack, and Hugo de Vries, three scientists, found out that what Mendel had documented was true in the sense of inheritance of characteristics from parents to offspring. Thus, after the death of this gentleman, he was finally given the credit for making the world aware that inheritance of characteristics follows certain definite pathways. Since then, John Gregor Mendel is regarded as the father of genetics.